Her species was hunted for power, but I couldn't let them take her asterisk. The cargo hold reeked of fear and desperation. Marcus Kane adjusted his breathing mask as he stepped through the shadows of the slave transport, his boots making soft clicks. Against the metal grating, 20 years of bounty hunting had taught him to recognize the smell of hopelessness. But this was different. This was the scent of something dying. Another successful raid, Captain Voss had bragged earlier, his scarred face splitting into a yellow-toothed grin. Caught ourselves a real prize this time. Last of her kind, they say. The consortium's offering triple rates for this one. Marcus had nodded, playing his part as the hired muscle. The consortium paid well for rare specimens, and he needed the credits. But as he moved deeper into the ship's belly, something twisted in his gut. The other prisoners cowered in their cells, various alien species he recognized from countless wanted posters. But at the far end, in a cage twice the size of the others, something extraordinary caught his eye. She sat perfectly still in the center of her prison, legs crossed in meditation. Her skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, shifting between deep, violet and silver-like liquid starlight, delicate features framed eyes that held galaxies within their depths. Her hair moved as if underwater, each strand catching light that shouldn't exist in this dim hold. An Etherean. He'd heard stories but never seen one alive. The Starweavers, they called them. Beings who could manipulate cosmic energy itself, bend light and gravity to their will. No wonder the consortium wanted her so badly. Beautiful, isn't she? Voss appeared beside him, his breath hot against Marcus's ear. Last female of her species. They say her people could weave stars themselves. Imagine the power we could harvest from her essence. Marcus's jaw tightened. Harvest, oh yes. The process takes time, but it's worth it. We drain them slowly, keep them alive as long as possible. Their energy signatures are off the charts. One Etherean can power a small fleet for decades. Woman's eyes opened, meeting Marcus's gaze directly. He felt something pass between them, a connection that made his chest tighten. She didn't plead or cry like the others. Instead, she tilted her head slightly, studying him with an intelligence that made him forget how to breathe. Her name's Zara Vex, Voss continued. Former guardian of the Nexus constellation. Put up quite a fight when we found her hiding in the void sectors. But here she is now, ready for processing. Marcus forced himself to look away from those haunting eyes. When do we deliver her? 3 days to reach the extraction facility. The consortium's already preparing the harvesting chambers. Voss clapped him on the shoulder. Your cut will set you up for life, Kane. No more hunting scraps in the outer systems. As Voss walked away, Marcus found himself drawn back to Zara's cage. She watched him approach, her expression unreadable. When he stopped in front of the energy barrier, she rose gracefully to her feet. Even imprisoned, she moved like flowing water, like music made flesh. You're different from the others, she said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. I can sense it. Marcus glanced around, ensuring they were alone. What do you mean, your aura? It's conflicted. Torn. She stepped closer to the barrier. Close enough that he could see the faint patterns of light dancing beneath her skin. You don't want to be here. Doesn't matter what I want. Business is business. Sad smile crossed her features. Is it, when business means extinction? When it means watching the last light of a civilization die in agony? Her words hit harder than he expected. Marcus had always told himself he was just a tool, a weapon pointed by whoever paid the most. Personal feelings were a luxury he couldn't afford. But standing here, looking into the eyes of someone who would soon be tortured to death for the crime of existing, that justification felt hollow. My people, Zara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. We were guardians of the cosmic balance. We helped stars be born, guided dying worlds to peaceful ends. We never sought power over others, only harmony with the universe itself. Then why hunt you? Because harmony doesn't generate profit. Because there are those who would rather own the stars than dance with them. She pressed her palm against the barrier, and for a moment, the energy field flickered with rainbow colors. They've killed billions of us. Entire worlds reduced to ash, so they could harvest our essence. I am truly the last. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. In 2 decades of hunting, he'd told himself that everyone deserved their fate somehow, that the universe was just cruel and random. But this woman, this last guardian of starlight, had done nothing but exist as something beautiful in a universe increasingly devoid of beauty. 3 days, he said quietly. 3 days until my light joins the darkness forever. She studied his face intently. Unless someone decides that some things are worth saving, regardless of the cost, the challenge in her voice was unmistakable. Marcus knew he should walk away, collect his payment, and forget those galaxy-deep eyes. He should be practical, logical, safe. Instead, he found himself memorizing the lock mechanism on her cage. 2 hours before dawn shift, Marcus made his move. The ship hummed with the quiet rhythm of hyperspace, most of the crew lost in chemically assisted sleep. He'd disabled 3 security cameras and drugged the guard rotation with sedatives slipped into their evening rations. 20 years of infiltration work, finally serving a cause that mattered. Zara was waiting when he approached her cage, sitting exactly as she had hours before. But now her eyes held something different. Hope, fragile as spun glass, but undeniably present. I was wondering if you'd come, she whispered, as Marcus worked on the lock mechanism with his plasma cutter. The energy barrier flickered and died with a soft whine. We have maybe 30 minutes before someone notices, Marcus said, not meeting her gaze. I've got a ship docked in Bay 7. Can you run? The moment her feet touched the ship's floor, Marcus felt it. Subtle shift in the air itself, as if reality had suddenly become more vivid, more alive. Her presence seemed to wake something sleeping in the metal around them. I can do more than run, she said, and smiled for the first time since he'd met her. They moved through the ship like ghosts, Zara's bare feet making no sound on the metal grating. Marcus had mapped every corridor, every guard station, every potential obstacle. But having her beside him felt different than any solo operation. She seemed to sense danger before it appeared, guiding him away from patrols with gentle touches. On his arm that sent electricity through his entire body. Left here, she breathed against his ear as they reached a junction. Proximity made his heart race in ways that had nothing to do with the mission. How do you know? I can feel there. Life patterns. 2 guards, heavily armed, moving toward us from the main corridor. Marcus changed course without question. Her abilities went far beyond what the stories claimed. She wasn't just manipulating energy. She was reading the very fabric of existence. Around them, they reached his ship without incident, a sleek courier vessel he'd named Wanderer. Nothing fancy, but fast and equipped with military-grade stealth systems. As the airlock cycled open, Marcus felt a moment of doubt. He was throwing away everything he'd built, burning every bridge for a woman he barely knew. Zara seemed to sense his hesitation. She turned to face him in the narrow corridor, close enough that he could see the starlight patterns shifting beneath her skin. Marcus, she said softly, using his name for the first time. Thank you for choosing hope over fear. Before he could respond, she rose on her tiptoes and kissed him gently. It was meant to be grateful, brief, but the moment their lips touched, something ignited between them. Marcus felt like he was being kissed by the cosmos itself, every nerve ending singing with impossible energy. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. We should go, Marcus managed, his voice rougher than intended. The Wanderer's engines hummed to life as Marcus fired the initialization sequence. Behind them, Voss's ship continued its steady course toward the consortium facility, oblivious to their missing cargo. They had perhaps 6 hours before anyone noticed Zara was gone. Where are we going? Zara asked, settling into the co-pilot's chair. Her presence seemed to make the ship's instruments glow brighter, respond faster. Asteroid field about 3 systems out. Good place to disappear while we figure out our next move. Marcus engaged the hyperdrive, watching space stretch into brilliant lines around them. Tell me about your abilities. What can you actually do? Zara was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars flow past. My people called it star weaving. You don't control energy so much as dance with it. Every photon, every gravitational wave, every quantum fluctuation has its own rhythm. We learn to move in harmony with those rhythms. To demonstrate, she held out her hand. Light began to gather in her palm, not harsh artificial illumination, but something warm and alive. The light took shape, forming a miniature galaxy that spun slowly above her fingers. "This is how we used to help dying stars find peace," she said. "We'd weave their final energies into something beautiful instead of letting them collapse into darkness." Marcus stared at the tiny galaxy, mesmerized. "It's incredible. It's dying," Zara said sadly, and the light faded. "Like everything else, Consortium has spent centuries hunting us, turning our gift into their weapon. They don't understand that star weaving requires balance, harmony. Their extraction process is pure violation." The ship's proximity alarms chimed softly. Marcus checked his instruments and cursed. 3 ships, coming in fast. Military configuration. They found us quickly. Too quickly. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, pushing the Wanderer's engines. Beyond safe parameters, someone tipped them off. "Boss must have discovered you were missing." The pursuing ships opened fire, plasma bolts lighting up space around them. Marcus threw the ship into evasive maneuvers, diving toward the nearby asteroid field. The dense rock formations would provide cover, but it would also limit their mobility. "Hold on," he shouted as a plasma bolt grazed their starboard engine. The ship shuddered, warning lights cascading across the control panel. Zara unbuckled her restraints and moved to stand behind Marcus's chair. "May I?" she asked, placing her hands on his shoulders. "What are you going to do? Trust me." The moment Zara's palms made contact, Marcus felt it. Power flowed through him, not overwhelming, but enhancing. His reflexes sharpened, his understanding of the ship's systems deepened. He could feel the asteroids around them like extensions of his own body, sense the pursuit ships as bright spots of hostile intent. Together, they danced through the asteroid field with impossible precision. Marcus piloted, while Zara guided. Their movements perfectly synchronized. Pursuing ships, built for open space combat, struggled to match their fluid grace among the rocks.
"There," Zara whispered, her breath warm against his ear.
"That formation ahead. The rocks are rich in gravitational anomalies." Marcus didn't question her knowledge. He dove toward the indicated asteroids, feeling the ship respond to their combined will. Behind them, the lead pursuit ship followed too. Closely, too confidently. The gravitational anomaly caught them like a trap, crushing their ship against the asteroid's surface in a brilliant explosion. The other 2 ships pulled back, suddenly wary. "We're not safe yet," Marcus said, checking their fuel and engine status. Both were running dangerously low. "We need somewhere to hide, somewhere they won't think to look." Zara smiled, her eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the cockpit. "I know a place. But first we need to talk about what this means. What we mean." Her hand found his fingers intertwining with surprising warmth. Marcus realized that somewhere between her cage and this moment, everything had changed. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was the beginning of something that would reshape both their lives. The hidden moon orbited a dead star, its surface shrouded in perpetual twilight. Marcus had heard whispers of such places in the deepest reaches of space. Sanctuaries built by ancient civilizations and forgotten by the galaxy at large. But he'd never expected to see one, much less be guided there by an ethereal woman whose touch still sent shivers through his entire being. "How did you know about this place?" Marcus asked, as they descended through the moon's thin atmosphere. Below them, structures that seemed grown rather than built spiraled up from the surface like crystalline trees. "My people built it," Zara said softly, her eyes drinking in the sight of home. "One of the last refuges we created before the hunting began in earnest. I hoped it might still be here." The Wanderer settled onto a landing platform that activated. The moment they approached, ancient systems recognizing Zara's presence. As they disembarked, Marcus felt the moon's unique energy signature washing over them. The air itself seemed alive, humming with barely contained power. "It's beautiful," he breathed, and meant it. The structures around them pulsed with soft bioluminescence. their surfaces shifting between colors he had no names for. Gardens of impossible plants created spiraling paths between buildings that defied conventional architecture. Zara walked ahead of him, her movements becoming more graceful with each step. Here, surrounded by the remnants of her people's artistry, she seemed to glow brighter, become more herself. "Welcome to Haven's Heart," she said, turning to face him with tears streaming down her luminous cheeks. The last Etherean sanctuary in the known universe. They spent the first hour exploring, Zara pointing out the purposes of various structures. The healing chambers where wounded starweavers could recover by bathing in concentrated cosmic energy. The meditation spires where masters had once trained students to hear the songs of distant quasars. The memory vaults where the history and culture of her people lay preserved in crystalline matrices. All empty now, she said, as they climbed a graceful spiral staircase that seemed to be made of solidified starlight. I am the only one left to remember what these places meant. At the top of the spire, they emerged onto a circular platform, open to the twilight sky. The dead star hung overhead, its collapsed mass creating gravitational lensing effects that turned the sky into a cathedral of bent light. Marcus had never seen anything so beautiful or so sad. "This is where we would come to commune with the cosmos," Zara explained, moving to the platform's center, "where we learn to hear the universe's deepest secrets." She began to move, her body flowing in patterns that seemed almost like dance. But as Marcus watched, he realized she was doing something far more profound.
Ow.
Light began to gather around her, responding to her movements. The dead star overhead flickered, its dim radiance growing stronger. "Zara," Marcus whispered, awestruck. She turned to him, her face radiant with power and joy. "This is what they wanted to steal," she said. "This is what they would torture from me drop by drop, the ability to wake sleeping stars, to bring light to the darkness." The star above them pulsed brighter, and suddenly the entire moon was bathed in warm golden light. Plants in the gardens below began to bloom, their flowers opening to drink in the renewed radiance. The structures around them hummed with increased energy, coming fully alive for the first time in decades. "You brought it back," Marcus said, understanding flooding through him. "You woke the star." "You brought it back," Zara corrected, moving toward him. "I couldn't have done it alone. Your presence, your strength, it grounds me, gives me something to anchor the power to." She was close enough now that he could see the patterns of light moving beneath her skin, could feel the energy radiating from her like heat from a fire. When she reached up to touch his face, her palm was warm against his cheek. "Marcus," she said quietly, "what we have, what's growing between us, it's not just attraction, it's resonance. Your life force harmonizes with mine in ways I've never experienced." "What does that mean?" Instead of answering with words, she kissed him. This time there was nothing hesitant about it. Her lips moved against his with urgent hunger, and Marcus felt the universe explode behind his closed eyelids. Every star, every galaxy. Every swirling nebula seemed to sing in harmony with their joined heartbeats. When they broke apart, both were glowing faintly, their skin traced with veins of light that pulsed in perfect synchronization. "It means," Zara whispered against his lips, "that the consortium was wrong about us. They thought our power came from our biology, our genetics. But it comes from connection, from love, from the bonds we forge with others." Marcus pulled her closer, marveling at how perfectly she fit against him. "So what happens now?" "Have a choice," she said, her fingers tracing patterns of light across his chest. "We can hide here, safe in this sanctuary, living out our days in peace, or we can fight back. Show the galaxy that some things are worth preserving." "Want to do?" Zara smiled, and in that expression Marcus saw steel beneath the starlight. "I want to make them pay for what they've done. I want to show them that love is stronger than fear, that creation is more powerful than destruction, and that's what we'll do," Marcus said, surprised by his own certainty. A week ago, he'd been a bounty hunter motivated by nothing but credits and survival. Now, he was ready to take on the most powerful criminal organization in the galaxy, for a woman who made stars dance. They made love there on the platform. Beneath the reborn star, they had awakened together. Their bodies moved in the same rhythm, as the cosmos around them, finding a harmony that transcended the physical. When Zara cried out at the peak of their passion, every plant on the moon bloomed simultaneously, filling the air with fragrances from a dozen worlds. Afterward, they lay entwined beneath the starlight, planning their rebellion against forces that had hunted her people to extinction. But for now, in this moment, they were safe. They were together, and they were more powerful than either had ever dreamed possible. "I love you," Marcus whispered against her hair, the words surprising him with their intensity. "And I love you," Zara replied, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to echo across dimensions. "My Starweaver heart has found its anchor." Above them, the reborn star pulsed gently, a beacon of hope in the darkness. 3 days of paradise ended with proximity alarms screaming through Haven's heart. Marcus jolted awake from dreams filled with starlight and Zara's whispered promises, immediately recognizing the harsh tone that meant incoming ships. Them. How many? Zara asked, already moving with the fluid grace that still took his breath away. In the days since their arrival, she had grown stronger, more radiant. The sanctuary's energy had restored something in her that years of hiding had worn away. Marcus's fingers flew over the scanner controls he'd integrated with the moon's ancient systems. 12 ships, military configuration, consortium markings. He cursed under his breath. Someone leaked our location. Or they followed our energy signature when I woke the star, Zara said, pulling on the simple robes they'd found in the sanctuary's wardrobe chambers. Even dressed plainly, she looked like a goddess preparing for war. "Can you dim it? The star? It's not without killing it completely, and that would take hours we don't have." She moved to the observatory's central platform, her hands already beginning to weave patterns in the air. "We need to run." The Wanderer sat on its landing pad exactly as they'd left her. But Marcus could see the approaching ships as bright dots against the starfield. Military interceptors, built for pursuit and capture. Fast, heavily armed, and crewed by people who wouldn't hesitate to kill him and torture Zara. "They'll catch us in open space," Marcus said as they reached the ship. "These aren't the same. Idiots from the slave transport." "Consortium military doesn't make mistakes." "Then we don't run in open space," Zara replied, her eyes already distant as she reached out with her Starweaver senses. "There's a pulsar cluster about 2 hours from here. Gravitational distortions will level the playing field." Lifted off, Marcus felt the familiar thrill of adrenaline mixing with something new, the electric sensation of Zara's power flowing through their shared connection. She stood behind his pilot's chair, her hands resting on his shoulders. And suddenly he could feel the cosmos around them with impossible clarity. "They're spreading out to cut off escape routes," she murmured. Her consciousness expanded far beyond the confines of their ship, standard encirclement pattern. But they don't know about the pulsar cluster. Marcus pushed the engines to maximum burn, racing toward the edge of the system. Behind them, the consortium ships adjusted course to intercept, their formation closing like a predator's jaws. Energy readings showed they were charging weapon systems. "Here they come," Marcus said, throwing the ship into evasive maneuvers. As the first plasma bolt streaked past their hull, the Wanderer shuddered under the assault. Warning lights cascading across the control panel. Zara's grip on his shoulders tightened, and Marcus felt her power surge through him. Time seemed to slow, his perception of the battle expanding beyond human limitations. He could see the plasma bolts forming in enemy weapons before they fired. He could feel the gravitational currents between stars like physical things he could navigate. Together, they danced through the attack. Marcus's piloting enhanced by Zara's cosmic awareness. The Wanderer twisted through patterns that should have been impossible, threading between energy blasts with millimeters to spare. "You're incredible," Zara breathed against his ear, her voice filled with wonder. "Your instincts, the way you move through space, it's like you were born for this." "Only with you," Marcus replied, pulling them through a barrel roll that brought them around behind one of the interceptors. "Alone, I'm just another pilot. With you, I'm something more." They reached the pulsar cluster exactly as their pursuers closed the trap. The space around them erupted into chaos as gravitational waves from the spinning neutron stars created reality-bending distortions. What had been empty space suddenly became a maze of warped space-time, where straight lines became curves and velocity became relative. "Now we fight back," Zara said, her eyes blazing with inner fire. She stepped away from Marcus's chair and moved to the ship's center, raising her hands to begin the most complex star-weaving he'd ever witnessed. Energy flowed from her, invisible, streams reaching out to touch the pulsars themselves. The ancient stars responded to her call, their rotation synchronizing, their magnetic fields aligning. The lead consortium ship, trying to navigate the gravitational maze, suddenly found itself caught in a focused beam of pure energy. Its shields flared and died in seconds, the hull beginning to glow white-hot. "Impossible," crackled a voice over their communications. "She's controlling the pulsars themselves." "This is what my people could do," Zara said, her voice carrying new harmonics that seemed to echo from the stars themselves. "This is why you hunted us, because we could turn the cosmos itself into our weapon." 3 more ships fell to her directed stellar fury, their crews abandoning ship as their vessels became uninhabitable. But the effort was taking its toll. Could see the strain in Zara's face, the way her luminous skin flickered like a candle in the wind. "Zara, you're pushing too hard?" "I have to," she gasped, weaving another pattern that sent gravitational waves crashing into 2 more interceptors. "If even one escapes, they'll bring reinforcements. Bigger ships. We'll never be safe." The remaining consortium vessels, realizing the scope of what they faced, began to retreat. But their commander was either braver or more foolish than his subordinates. The flagship, a heavy cruiser designed for planetary bombardment, pushed deeper into the pulsar cluster. "Target their engines," came the transmission. "Disable the ship. We need her alive." Marcus felt Zara stumble, her connection to the pulsars wavering. The strain of controlling such massive forces was burning through her reserves faster than she could replenish them. "I can't hold this much longer," she whispered, sinking to her knees. The cruiser's weapons opened fire, but these weren't capture beams. They were disruptors, designed to overload a Starweaver's nervous system without killing them. The first blast sent Zara screaming to the deck, her body convulsing as alien energy tore through her. Something primal and furious awakened. In Marcus's chest, the woman he loved was being tortured, and every instinct he'd developed over 20 years of survival demanded action. Without thinking, he reversed course and aimed the Wanderer directly at the cruiser's bridge. "What are you doing?" Dara managed. Through gritted teeth, "Something stupid and heroic," Marcus replied, arming every weapon they had. "Hold on." They struck the cruiser like a meteor, the Wanderer's reinforced hull punching through the larger ship's shields and armor. Marcus had aimed for the weapon systems, hoping to disable the disruptors, but their impact did more than that. It sent them tumbling through the cruiser's interior in a cascade of sparks and twisted metal. When the chaos stopped, they found themselves embedded in what looked like a cargo bay. Emergency lighting cast everything in hellish red, and atmosphere was venting through a dozen hull breaches. "Can you move?" Marcus asked, helping Zara to her feet. She was pale, her starlight dimmed, but not extinguished. "I think so. But Marcus, that was insane. We could have been killed. Better than letting them torture you." He kissed her fiercely, pouring all his fear and love into the contact. "I won't lose you. Not to them. Not to anyone." Zara kissed him back with desperate hunger, and for a moment the universe narrowed to just the 2 of them. But reality intruded in the form of approaching footsteps and shouted orders. Later, she whispered against his lips, "Right now, we need to find another way off this ship." Together, they disappeared into the cruiser's darkened corridors, leaving their enemies to wonder how a simple bounty hunter, and the last Starweaver, had become something that could challenge the most powerful forces in the galaxy. The consortium cruiser's corridors rang with emergency klaxons as Marcus and Zara moved through the shadows like twin ghosts. The ship was dying around them, atmosphere bleeding out through the massive wound their crash had torn in its hull. But its crew was far from finished. "Sector 7 is sealed," crackled a voice over the intercom system. "Begin systematic sweep. Find them." Marcus pressed against the wall beside a junction, feeling Zara's warmth against his back. Even weakened from her battle with the pulsars, she radiated an energy that made his skin tingle. 3 days of intimacy had taught him to read her moods. Through that connection, and right now, he could feel her determination burning like a star. "The shuttle bay," she whispered, her breath warm against his ear. "I can sense it." To levels down, past the central computer core. "Can you handle 2 levels worth of consortium soldiers?" Instead of answering, Zara smiled. Even dimmed by exhaustion, that smile could have lit up entire solar systems. "With you beside me, I can handle anything." They moved deeper into the ship, avoiding patrol units through a combination of Marcus's tactical experience and Zara's ability to sense life patterns through the walls. But as they descended toward the shuttle bay, the corridors became more crowded, the search more intensive. "There's something else," Zara said as they paused in an empty storage chamber. "Something I need to tell you about what's happening between us." Marcus turned to face her fully, struck as always by her ethereal beauty. Even here, surrounded by enemies in the belly of a dying ship, she looked like something out of legend. "What do you mean?" "The resonance between us, the way our energies harmonize." She placed her palm flat against his chest, and immediately he felt that electric connection flare to life. "It's not just making us stronger individually, it's creating something new." To demonstrate, she began to weave patterns in the air between them, but instead of the golden starlight he'd grown accustomed to, this energy was different. Silver threads mixed with gold, creating complex geometries that seemed to exist in more dimensions than his mind could process. "It's beautiful," Marcus breathed, watching the impossible patterns dance around them. "It's us," Zara said simply. "Your life force and mine, creating something that has never existed before. A new form of star weaving that doesn't require generations of training or genetic heritage. It requires love." The implications hit him like a physical blow.
Oh.
"You mean others could learn this? Humans could become star weavers? More than that. We could teach the galaxy that power doesn't have to come from domination and extraction. That the greatest forces in the universe spring from connection, from choosing to protect rather than consume." Heavy footsteps in the corridor outside cut their conversation short. Marcus drew his weapon as the storage chamber's door began to cycle open, but Zara placed a gentle hand on his wrist. "Let me," she said, stepping forward to face the squad of consortium soldiers who burst through the doorway. "There they are," shouted the squad leader, raising his disruptor rifle. "Take them alive?" Zara raised her hands, and the silver-gold energy erupted from her fingers like liquid lightning. But this wasn't the destructive force she'd used against the ships. This was something far more subtle and infinitely more terrifying to the consortium's worldview. The soldiers stopped firing. One by one, their weapons lowered as expressions of wonder replaced the cold professionalism on their faces. The energy surrounding Zara wasn't attacking them, it was showing them something. Memories, perhaps, or visions of what the galaxy could become if people chose cooperation over conquest. "What is this?" the squad leader whispered, his voice filled with awe. "Hope," Zara replied simply. "The choice to be more than what others have made you." For a moment, Marcus thought it might actually work. The soldiers looked ready to lay down their arms to choose a different path than the one the consortium had set them on. But then reinforcements arrived, and the spell was broken by the harsh voice of Captain Voss himself. "Idiots," the scarred captain snarled, pushing through the stunned soldiers. "That's exactly what she wants, to corrupt you with her alien poison." He raised a heavy plasma cannon, the kind designed to punch through starship armor.
At this range, it would vaporize both Marcus and Zara instantly.
"No more games," Voss continued, his finger tightening on the trigger. "The consortium wants her alive, but they'll settle for her corpse if that's what it takes to end this." Time slowed to a crawl as Marcus watched the weapon's charging indicators climb toward critical. He started to move, knowing he could never reach Voss in time, but unable to stand still while the woman he loved faced death. But Zara was faster. The silver-gold energy that had been dancing around her fingers suddenly exploded outward, filling the entire corridor with impossible radiance. Marcus felt it wash over him like warm water, but to the consortium soldiers it was something else entirely. Their weapons simply ceased to function. The hostile energy in their power cells neutralized by Zara's harmonizing influence. Impossible. Voss breathed, staring at his dead weapon. "No," Zara said, floating 6 inches off the deck as raw cosmic power flowed through her. Her eyes had become galaxies, her hair a cascade of liquid starlight. Just what happens when love refuses to yield to fear. She gestured, and the corridor's walls became transparent, revealing the vast cosmos beyond. The pulsar cluster they'd fought in earlier was still active, its neutron stars spinning in perfect synchronization with Zara's heartbeat. "This is what you would have destroyed," she told the soldiers, her voice carrying harmonics that seemed to echo from the stars themselves. "This is what the consortium has been fighting against. It's not a threat to your way of life, but an invitation to something greater." Marcus watched in amazement as the soldiers' expressions shifted from fear to wonder to something approaching worship. Even Voss seemed affected, his scarred face softening as he stared at the cosmic display surrounding them. "We could teach you," Zara continued, extending her hand toward the captain. "All of you. The ability to work with the universe instead of against it, to create instead of destroy." For a heartbeat, Marcus thought Voss might actually take her hand. The man's reach began to extend, his eyes reflecting the starlight that danced around Zara's form. Then alarms began screaming throughout the ship, and the moment shattered. "Hull breach in Section 12, crackled the intercom. "All hands to emergency stations were breaking apart." The cruisers shuddered around them, metal groaning as structural supports failed. Their impact earlier had done more damage than Marcus realized, and the ship was finally succumbing to the wounds.